You can find the passage that I'm referring to on page 45, and it states, Baby Kochamma resented Ammu because she saw her quarreling with a fate that she, Baby Kochamma herself, felt she had graciously accepted. The fate of wretched manless woman, the sad, Father Mulliganless Baby Kochamma. She had managed to persuade herself over the years that her unconsummated love for Father Mulligan had been entirely due to her restraint and her determination to do the right thing. Baby Kochamma, of course, wants to believe that she chose not to receive Father Mulligan's love, as seen from the quote, but that's the only thing she wanted more than anything. Forbidden love that Ammu and Velutha portray is despicable to her, and maybe it's because she could never attain this love herself. I think that The God of Small Things is not a novel about mass struggle. Rather, it's about how we can see individuals, particularly women like Ammu and Baby Kochamma herself, find to resist the conditions imposed upon them by the society. The character of Ammu, which Baby Kochamma refers to in this quote, who is to commit the ultimate transgression by loving the low-caste, untouchable Paravan Velutha, in some ways epitomizes this portrayal of woman in this novel. The author gets this quite clearly, Roy gets this quite clearly to the audience, so there is not much controversy in thinking that Ammu is a perfect example of the gender inequality in the novel. In fact, the purpose of this character, of Ammu, by majority of the time in the novel, is to be an example of this, of the struggle of women, which was clearly shown by Roy. However, Roy tries to, almost mystify at parts and explains Ammu's ability to resist in small ways. This can be referred to the quote at page 44, the page right before the quote that I mentioned at the beginning, and it states, she wore flowers in her hair and carried magic secrets in her eyes. How does this connect to Baby Kochamma's resentment of Ammu? Well, Kochamma sees the secrets in, quote, the secrets in her eyes and resents that. Kochamma chooses to not see Ammu as a character who struggles herself. In fact, Ammu's character has been often shaped not only by her experiences as the divorced woman, as we find out, but as a daughter of a violent father, and even her mother is resigned and submissive, and Baby Kochamma doesn't often see this. So the relationship that Baby Kochamma and Ammu has is often doesn't involve the outside factors that define these characters. Ammu developed a sense of injustice and the reckless streak that develops in someone small who has been bullied all their lives by someone much bigger than them, like her parents. And we can see this from page 181 to 182. Despite this, Ammu is in many ways destroyed by the backlash from the society that some might even call feudal patriarchal society. And on top of that, Baby Kochamma, due to her perhaps jealousy, on top of that, her jealousy, he makes her resent Ammu. The most interesting meaning that I find behind Baby Kochamma's resentment is how the author Roy, through the quote that I mentioned at the beginning, portrays the way that not only the society treats the women bad, but the way that the women themselves collude in enforcing these patriarchal forms, these feudal patriarchal norms, seen in the bitter ways that Baby Kochamma treats Ammu. In fact, we can see this from the continuation of the quote that I mentioned at the start, which states that Baby Kochamma, it's referring to Baby Kochamma, she had managed to persuade herself over the years that her unconsummated love. She subscribed wholeheartedly to the commonly held view that a married daughter had no position in her parents' home. As for a divorced daughter, according to Baby Kochamma, she had no position anywhere at all, And as for the divorced daughter from a love marriage, well, words could not describe baby Kochamma's outrage. This quote doesn't only perfectly capture everything that's been said before about baby Kochamma's resentment for Ammu, but uh, nicely captures how Roy has an unconventional way of narration and adds to the meaning behind the quote. And this can be definitely seen from the continuation of the quote, where he italicizes a lot of the words. He italicizes divorce. He italicizes divorce twice in a row, and he italicizes love. This goes on to page 46, where he uses the same style of writing, but some could view this as Roy's way of sorry, I got interrupted. Some could view this as Roy's way of trying to emphasize the words that really matter. And so if we look at the separate words that have been italicized, Roy emphasizes divorce and daughter twice in a row. Perhaps he wants us to identify Ammu as a daughter of a divorced family, as opposed to a character of her own views and experiences, which has been as a daughter of a divorced family, has been a huge a factor that shaped her as a character in this novel. As the audience can emphasize, show ethos for this character, but also happens to, in the same part of in the same paragraph, connect love with marriage, which further shows that marriage identifies with love. And since baby Kochamma Ammu didn't have this growing up, or maybe she did when she was growing up, but eventually her divorced parents were a sign of the broken love in her family. And this is an interesting connection between what Ammu had later, is because even though there's broken love in her family, she found love from Velutha, which was also broken, but in some ways from the society. It was a true love for them too, but a love oppressed by the society. And that's why baby Kochamma can't stand this. She resents this because she had a broken love, but not because of the society, because of her own choices, even though she tried to convince herself that it was her own choice not to receive Father Mulligan's love. And so there's a lot in this page that basically shows what love and marriage and divorce means in this novel, and then connects it to how these characters are portrayed, not only by the audience, but between the characters themselves. So baby Kochamma doesn't have the right to judge Ammu on this kind of aspect, as she was a daughter of a divorced parents herself.